What does this increase mean to you?
It means one thing to me: we're going to have to work just a little harder to keep up with it.
Are you?
The 1960 official figure was 679,684. These preliminary 1970 figures are 836,093. That's a pretty substantial increase for us, and certainly makes us one of the leading cities in the country on a population basis.
And of course, it means that Dallas is, this big metropolitan area, is a very attractive spot in this country. I think we can keep on anticipating that we'll have the even greater increase in the next 10 years.
What about this issue of notes? What particularly is the item that upsets them without getting visual?
Well, they seem to be upset with the bottom half of this photograph and some other photographs on page 7 of an incident in which a man took off his clothes and walked down the streets of downtown Dallas for 3 blocks. They can't deny that it happens. They just don't want people to know about it.
The ideal in this event is it's a seesaw affair, and you're supposed to try to balance the car on the seesaw, on a teeter-totter.
What does this require, George?
Sir?
What does this require? What do you have to do?
It's just
balance.
It's just one of our games. You're just supposed to drive on it real slow. It just
Have to drive it to
Yeah.
a certain point until it actually. Do you back up?
Yeah, you can back up.
So it's a matter of driving skill.
Right. And sense of balance.
How long you been driving Model A, George?
I've had this one about 6.5 years.
We're driving up on this balancing device. Yeah, it's pretty good, George. You just feel it?
Yeah.
Just about. George, you're up on it. Yeah, you said that. A weird feeling. You're over the hump. Oh, didn't quite make it.
I've said many times I'm not nearly as much interested in the size of the city as I am in the quality of life in it. I think our chore really is to see that the growth is of the right and balanced variety to give us a strong and viable community which can adjust to the ups and downs of business and industry and take everything in stride.
In the economic sense, it means that we're going to continue to have a relatively full employment. It's well known that we're in some sort of an economic slowdown across the nation now, but I think this sort of a rate of growth will mean that we'll continue to have a relatively high level of retail sales, and other economic indicators will be at a high level relative to the rest of the country. So it means we're going to have continue to have an attractive place where people want to move and bring their families.
I'm convinced, however, that mass rapid transit must be considered on a regional or state basis if we're to avoid the expensive duplication that can come from local cities and municipalities attempting to get federal funds for mass rapid transit purposes. I'm further convinced that the federal government is not going to put out much money in the form of grants until they're convinced there has been widespread hard planning by an agency or an authority that's capable of conducting these studies. I think for that reason that the Texas Turnpike Authority is in a position, for many practical reasons, to assist in mass rapid studies for not only for this area but for the state. For example, we can match funds from toll revenues with matching federal funds to conduct exploratory studies, and thus save the heavy drain on the treasures of individual cities who are trying to get this exploratory study money.
The seriousness of this whole incident calls for a public hearing on the whole matter and not just a self-serving police version of what happened. We feel that what has happened is not a problem of just a certain minority or ethnic group, but more important, a problem that concerns all law-abiding citizens of our community. The mass arrest and brutalization of certain peaceful and law-abiding citizens today is a threat to everyone's personal security tomorrow if the matter goes unchecked. We strongly urge that this incident be thoroughly investigated by all appropriate agencies, the wrongdoers be brought to justice, and appropriate steps taken to assure that this never again happens in Tarrant County.
As chairman, I'm going to do what the board directs. I have no intention of trying to run this program. But I think what I would like to do is to sell the community generally on this program. I think too few people in the county know what it is all about. And they can't learn what it's all about overnight because I've been studying pretty strenuously for 2 weeks and I've only touched the surface myself. So it's a long-term job.
What about the image of the war on poverty as a whole? It probably has suffered greatly in the last few months of controversy. At least it has an image now, but it may not be the best. What are you going to do about that?
Well, I think the selling job I just mentioned is the answer to it.
Who do you have to sell most?
Oh, I think the community. First, I would like to see the business community get behind the program. Now, I think the government entities, the city and the county, there's no question, they're behind it. They know about it. We get criticism, or have in the past got criticism from them, but they're the sponsors. I expect criticism and welcome it.
What about the specific question of Ruth Jefferson, who has been in the center of much of the controversy of the board? Do you think it would help? Would you advocate her being dismissed if this would help the board?
Well, if it would help the board, I would advocate my leaving. No, seriously, this question is under investigation right now, and I'd just rather not comment upon it at all until we see the results of this investigation.